Hi all, in this video I want to ask you, the YouTube audience, why we as chess players sometimes have to play seemingly ugly moves. What I mean by an ugly move is one which doesn't seem that positional. It seems as though perhaps you're weakening squares. You know, it's a move you really don't want to play, but in some positions you have to. I'll give you an example game of this, which in one position reaches the game reached on ChessGames.com, where an ugly move had to be played, and I'll show you the alternative, or one of the alternatives, which didn't end up very well for black. So here is the game Anand versus Timman. We'll actually take Anand's side. He won. It'll be more fun that way. So Anand played e4, and Timman played the Sicilian defence. Now Anand played a very sharp line of the open Sicilian, starting off with the Richter-Rauzer attacking move, bishop g5. And after e6, he now played queen d2, and it looks as though this is ordinary old Richter-Rauzer territory. But we're going to see now that later, in the 1990s I believe, there was a system called the English system, popularised by several English grandmasters. And in the English system, the idea is actually to play f3, and it's like you're playing the white side of a dragon, and you're later going to smash black up on the king side with your g and h pawns. So that setup, you know, you would think that was just tailored for the dragon, but it's actually being reused against the Sicilian Scheveningen here, this Scheveningen pawn structure. And the mark of trying to transpose it to the English attack system is shown now with Anand's bishop retreat, bishop e3, and this has been played by a few players above 2500 with great success statistically. So what we have now is black in effect being tricked to have played this move bishop d7, which is not so good in the English attack lines, because g4, g5, the knight won't be able to go back to d7. And if black wants counterplay against g4, you know, it's nice to be able to play moves like b5 and have the bishop on b7 and prepare d5 later. But that's not going to happen if the bishop's on d7 as opposed to b7. So this is a very tricky move order by Anand. And this was the source of much debate on the chess games forums, because they reached this position with black, and there was a neck voting between b5 and h5. So you might have guessed that h5 is the ugly move, which I believe is virtually forced in this position. So let's go back to the question, why would you be forced to play an ugly move like h5 here? Well, h5, let's take from black's perspective now. It's restraining white from playing g4, but it's conceding the g5 square. However, you know, black could try and play for castling queenside with queen c7 and castle queenside with any luck, assuming there's no knockout blows like knight b5. So let's see what happens if h5 is not played in this example game of Anand. We'll switch sides again. So Anand, after rook c8 was played, a much neater, you know, seemingly more logical positional move, rook c8. Just the rook will be useful on the c file. There's the standard dragon type manoeuvres, knight e5 to c4. So why isn't that going to be good for black? Well, white plays g4 now, and you know, is black's counterplay a little bit too slow? And also, where is his king going to go? So he plays for this knight c4, and black actually plays now b5 instead of knight c4. After bishop d3, now knight c4. So Anand just took, and now played knight ce2. So where is the black king going? Unfortunately, it looks as though there's going to be a battering ram effect. Check out a previous video on the battering ram to see what I mean. Black castles into the battering ram, and so the g and h pawns are going to be the main attacking thrust by white, to try and get rid of these pawns, to leave these rooks blasting down at black's king. So queen c8 and now b3, evicting the rook is quite useful. And now knight f4. Black has no time for e5 because of knight d5. Big advantage. Say bishop d8, knight f5 becomes possible. Let's have a look at that. Knight f5 or just knight e2. Big positional advantage here anyway. So black doesn't want to give up the d5 square. So Timman, he played rook c3, and we now see the battering ram coming into effect. So h5, and do you believe that the black king's going to make it here? Because it didn't. h6 really tore up all the lines now. So there are various things that black can do. Rybka really likes white's position. In the game, fg was played, so hg, and now rook f7 was played, and now came a crushing sacrifice. Can you spot it? I'll give you 5 seconds to see if you can spot it, starting from now. Okay, rook takes h7 was played, and now queen h2 check. So now if king takes g7, well, this was what actually was played, and then now smashes even more lines open with knight takes g6. So the battering ram has done its job. The gates to the king's castle have been ripped open by these series of sacrifices. Even sacrificing the bishop on e3 doesn't matter anymore, because knight e7 check, and white just picked up black's queen with this discovery. So knight takes c8 now. And Timman had had enough. That was a bit of a one-sided game, and it's a bit of a stark reality there hitting in, that sometimes, let's have a look at this critical position. If you're black in this position, let's flip the board. Now imagine you're black. Do you routinely want to play a neat looking move, a logical move like castles or rook c8 or b5, when you might be exposed dynamically to pressures like g4 and g5? This is the harsh reality, and it will sometimes cause you to play a seemingly ugly move. So in the Chess Games forum, by the way, they eventually voted for h5. So there's an interesting game being played there if you want to join in. And this is just one example of where you might have to play an ugly move to try and restrain, in this case, the opponent's attack with g4, g5. And in this particular situation, that attack is exacerbated because the knight has no natural retreat to d7, because the bishop is on d7 rather than b7, which it would have been if black had played b5 and bishop b7 earlier. So anyway, I hope that's given some insight that sometimes, ugly moves are necessary. We'll have a quick overview and summary from Anand's perspective. So black played a bit too naturally. He was the victim of this battering ram effect. And it really didn't seem as though he had much counterplay, actually. The queen side was just locked here. And when he opened lines, that was all he could hope for, this bishop f6, which actually in a game Kasparov against Adams, who was white, this worked out okay, this bishop f6. But here, black just got slaughtered. So really sometimes, it just depends on the position. So the final position. In case you were wondering here, bishop takes c8, white has queen h6 check, and the queen is actually taking the rook on e3, so it's really quite hopeless for black in this final position. And if the rook moves to say c3, then here queen takes d6 is going to be crushing. For example, bishop e7, now queen takes d7, so overwhelming material advantage. A quick addendum about the effect of having to play ugly moves. First of all, what sort of openings would mean we would have to play, seemingly these razor sharp, necessary, or even ugly looking moves? I think one of the reasons why in World Championship matches that we often used to see the classic Roy Lopez variation is because I think they know something. The great masters, the great world champions, probably have more faith in the classical systems like the Roy Lopez as opposed to the Sicilian defence. It seems, the dynamicness of sharp Sicilian lines means that, we don't know really what sort of weird and wonderful moves we'll have to play. But when you play classical systems, so by classical I mean, occupying the centre, so like the endless Queen's Gambit decline matches of Karpov-Kasparov is another example of what I mean by classical. In these type of positions, there isn't, the razor-sharp kind of positions you would get from, say, the Sicilian. And probably this is why, you know, the games would seem smoother and more elegant, you know, when people did win. Or you could go back to Capablanca against Alekhine, you know, those matches, you know, nice positional manoeuvring, and you know, the presence of ugly-looking moves was, you know, very few and far between. So I'd also like to raise this for discussion. Does the choice of opening and how sharp it is and how, you know, classical it is have a bearing on this question of, you know, do we have to play these seemingly ugly moves? Otherwise, you know, we would be all, you know, great artists without having to take into account, you know, razor-sharp positions and only moves, which might not be very pleasant to play. Thanks very much, and please leave any comments on YouTube.